Yet, in the process of deciding and choosing, the many choices and issues we need to face in our lives, especially the expression of our sexual desires, also in the workplace and with fellow workers, one should consider the Spanish philosopher George Santayana's words that skepticism is the chastity of the intellect, and it is shameful to surrender it too soon or to the first comer. There is nobility in preserving it coolly and proudly through long youth until at last, in the ripeness of instinct and discretion, it can be safely exchanged for fidelity and happiness. So, Santayana declared, skepticism is the chastity of the intellect, a very appropriate metaphor. The mind or soul that seeks the deepest intellectual and personal fulfillment does not give itself up to every passing idea, every novel thing that comes our way, possibility or temptation. Yet what is sometimes forgotten is the higher purpose of such a virtue. Self-control is a long and exacting work. One can never consider it acquired once for all. It presupposes renewed effort at all stages of life. Next to self-mastery or self-control, the high purpose of the virtue of chastity, like all the other virtues, is grounded in love. Love, the source of all things. For in the end, chastity is something one preserves not for its own sake, which would be barren, but rather so that one may be fully ready for the moment of surrender, either to the beloved, the friend, and even the co-worker with whom one is engaging in some or other project whose intentions are true. Whether in knowledge, wisdom, or in love, the capacity to recognize and embrace that moment when it finally arrives, perhaps in quite unexpected circumstances, is essential to the virtue. Only with that moment or that inward opening of heart, intuition and discernment can the full participatory engagement unfold that brings forth new realities, new experiences and new knowledge. Without this capacity, at once active and receptive, the long discipline of chastity would be fruitless. The carefully cultivated skeptical posture would become not a rigorous means towards some sublime outcome, but hopefully an empty prison, a setting free, a state of fulfillment, a permanently confining end in itself, a divinely inspired flourishing of our humanity grounded in love. Lastly, it is clear from the Old Testament that the altar is the archetype of all thresholds. These thresholds give rise to certain tasks. It's interesting to note that in the Old Testament there were special gatekeepers for the ark. In early pre-exilic writings there's a mention of a small number of keepers of the threshold of the temple. In two passages they are described as guarding the thresholds and porters of the threshold. Their duties were to watch the threshold of the temple and collect money from the people in order to pay the workers who repair the temple of the Lord. In the light of this passage, I would like to conclude with a statement that chastity is a keeper or guardian of a threshold. The boundary between self and other takes the form of a threshold. Thresholds are maintained through an ethical and spiritual awareness or sensitivity. Moral codes embody our attempt to protect the vulnerability of thresholds. Thresholds point to openings and the possibility to step over or to cross over a boundary or a border. Thresholds allows for transitions from one place to another, one mode of being or activity to another. Thresholds, whatever form they take, reveals themselves throughout our lives as we grow and move from one place to another, one culture to another, one job to another, one phase to another, one status to another, and one relationship to another. In every transition we make, we must negotiate the threshold. Every choice we make involves a transition or transgression of a threshold. Thresholds manifest as attempts to sustain the middle where the inside and outside meet. Just as a healthy dose of skepticism allows our intellect to wait, to ripen, so also do psychosocial thresholds invite us to linger or to tarry at the threshold and then be invited to walk over or cross over slowly. This moment of delay where we linger before moving is, from a temporal point of view, the main constituent or characteristic of thresholds. As we step over the threshold, passing through the threshold of which chastity is the guardian, we enter the domain of the other, an ethical domain of right or wrong, a gendered domain of him or her, a generational domain of young and old, a domain of the unborn, the living and the dead. The threshold between the living and the dead takes the form of a grave. Between the gods and humans, it takes the form of an altar. If we are to become well-differentiated individuals who live creatively, then the boundary between self and other in its original manifestations must take on the form of a threshold. The threshold embodies the relationship between husband and wife, parent and child, between friends as well as neighbors, not only as a given but precisely as a continuous achievement. Thresholds is a symbol of a human relationship that not only embodies the possibility of a relationship or its realization, but also constitutes the relationship. Thresholds are related transitional phenomena, anchor and enrich our experience of living. Therefore, respect for the threshold is the condition for the respect of others, and therefore chastity as a keeper of thresholds respects thresholds and restrains the ruthlessness of broken up and destructive drives such as lust and other vices. Honoring these thresholds allows for a space of caring and authentic encounter so necessary for human welfare. As a constitutive force, chastity is an expression of selflessness, predisposing us to be respectfully open to others and to serve them discerningly and fearlessly with a view of making a meaningful and creative possibility realizable. Thank you.